All right, let's talk about the history of the movie very briefly, hopefully briefly. This all begins with...
I've been thinking about this. I'm like, how the hell did it, like, could a movie like this ever exist now?
What specifically?
Most movies can't exist now. Oh my God, all my movies are in this poster.
Like, I know. I'm like, is
Curly
it just
Sue?
because John Hughes built up like so much goodwill that they like allowed him to greenlight this?
Well, what do you think wouldn't play today?
Like, I just don't think a movie like this gets made. Period. Like,
well, that's true of a lot of different kinds of movies, just because. But I mean, Home Alone 4 would get made because they do make franchise
well, it's
movies.
built-in audience too. It's
Right,
safe.
right. Yes, just an original.
Like, nobody would take a risk on making a movie like this.
It is yes, I agree. It's non-IP. It's not based on anything. It's just a screenwriter had an idea. It's a it was made for $18 million, which is kind of lower budget, but still like, mid-tier budget. It's aimed at kids, but families too, but kind of kids.
This is like Joe Pesci coming off Goodfellas.
Yeah, and you have like real character actors in the supporting cast, like Catherine O'Hara and John Hurd. No, I agree. This is the kind of thing that, like, instead of making new Home Alones, we make new Home Alones as in sequels to Home Alone. But like, where is the new version of this? They just don't do it. And they don't do it because, it's not going to play in Malaysia. All right, well, Chicago Magazine did an oral history of the first Home Alone in 2020, written by James Hughes, son of John Hughes. I used that as my primary source here, and we talked about this last year when we did our National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation history, because that's where we find out that Chris Columbus, who was originally hired as the director on Christmas Vacation, was totally bullied by Chevy Chase and asked John Hughes, can I please not work on this movie anymore? And John Hughes is like, okay, you can work on Home Alone instead. But first, John Hughes... 1989, he took a family trip to Europe, and he started having anxiety about, just one of those things you can't stop thinking about. Like, what if we just left the kid at the airport? Oh my God. And can't stop thinking about that. It's like when I'm on a cruise and suddenly I can't stop thinking about, what if I just threw my child overboard?
Yes, I can't stop thinking. Or a balcony, a high up balcony at a resort. It's like, what if I did a Michael Jackson and just dangled my baby? Why would you do that? I don't know. I'm just, why? What? That'd be fucked up if I did it. So he writes a screenplay about this idea. In less than 2 weeks, he writes the first draft. And at this point, he's already had his run of 80s classics, 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, Weird Science, Ferris Bueller, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and Uncle Buck. He'd also written Pretty in Pink, and he wrote the Vacation movies. Skip over Some Kind of Wonderful. How dare you?
Did he direct that?
I don't know. You have it in his poster.
That's just an image I grabbed.
Don't be grabbing shit.
What is Curly Sue?
Curly Sue is one of my movies. It's been on my list for forever to do on here.
What is Curly Sue?
James Belushi and Curly Sue here are
James Belushi.
or maybe
That's what you used to call him?
Funny. No, it's the other brother.
I know, it's just Jim Belushi. He's usually called Jim.
Yeah, I call him James. They're homeless, and they do a con to a rich lady to get into her house, and then they live like rich people for a while.
That's Curly Sue?
That's Curly Sue.
Who is
Look at her.
Curly Sue?
Look at her. She's in a wife beater. She's tough.
She is in the con with Jim Belushi?
She's his kid. That's how they get in the house with
it's
a
like
nice
a Paper
lady.
Moon situation. All right, well, let's do an episode on that.
All right.
Okay. Because of how successful Home Alone ends up being, he kind of really hard pivots to kids movies like the Beethoven movies and the 101 Dalmatians live action, which if you watch it, it's just Home Alone with the two dog kidnappers. They just get tormented by dogs.
Problem Child is also one of my movies. Problem Child 2 especially. So we can't do too many kid movies. We gotta pick these.
The biggest epiphany I had watching this last night, and why it really resonated with me, I think Home Alones are the origin of Jackass.
Huh, okay.
Torture for entertainment.
Yeah, I'm like, it sparks something when you see it at a young age. Like, people getting hurt is really funny. And then why don't we just focus on that?
Well, okay, my only retort to that is I think that this is not a new thing, vaudeville. Right. I think
stepping on a rake.
I think people have always known it's funny to watch people get hurt.
I think this is a movie that plays especially into that. Like, everything else surrounding the movie is just lead up to these guys getting hurt.
But it's in a long tradition of it's really funny when people get hurt.
But I
mean, somebody sitting on a tack, it's like, whoa, but all of that. But then it's like, what if we made a show or something that just focuses on people getting hurt?
What if we made the whole plane out of the black box? What if we made the whole show out of people just get hurt? Mm-hmm. And then the kids watching are like, what if I did that on my camcorder?
I think one of the most popular shows right now is just ridiculousness. And this is all my father-in-law watches at his house. It's just going 24/7.
Yeah, I've never seen
and
it.
it's just
I know
nothing but
it
people like
exists.
submitting like their own videos of like people doing dumb stuff.
So just funniest home videos.
The show is called Ridiculousness.
You've never heard of
Yes.
this?
No.
It is.
It's been on for
huge.
years.
That's all it is just like their own Home Alone skits.
It's just funniest home videos, but
And it's
for,
on
like-
television.
oh my god.
It's on MTV. I think it has its own channel now, like the Ridiculousness channel.
It's been literally on for over 10 years.
I thought that like YouTube like obviated the need for all these things.
Well, there's somebody who curates YouTube
okay, gotcha.
and then puts it on there, and they put like a panel around it and like talk about, aren't these people dumb?
and whoever had that idea is probably a fucking billionaire. Hey, what if I just went on YouTube and found stuff and we played that as our show?
But I think it all stems back to Harry and Mauve.
I think so. Chris Columbus is the director of this movie. He first broke out as a screenwriter in the mid 80s. His first movie script was a movie called Reckless, but then 1984, the big one, Gremlins, is a
seen
giant hit. You haven't seen Gremlins?
Nope, isn't that- that's a Christmas
great
movie too,
Christmas
right?
movie, yeah. And I always use Gremlins as an example because our podcast, everybody, it's about being honest about things you feel nostalgic about. And often you realize if I didn't grow up with this movie and I watched it as an adult, maybe it's not so great. Gremlins is a movie I did not grow up with. I didn't see it until I was an adult, but it's a movie that I love as an adult.
You know what I realized Gremlins is? It is just the father or mother of a person, of a child with ADHD that's like undiagnosed and unmedicated. You just know your kid is different, wired different. You don't feed that kid after midnight, or else it's like raising two kids. And that other kid is fucking worse than the one before.
Yeah.
It's just a metaphor for ADHD children.
Yeah. You have two different names for your kid. I have kid A, and then I have kid B who comes out after midnight if they don't take the.
Which we call the witching hour.
So yeah, he then goes on to write The Goonies and Young Sherlock Holmes. In 1987, he graduates to director. He directs Adventures in Babysitting, which is a moderate hit, and then Heartbreak Hotel, a flop. And he says like he was really worried about his career, but like, yeah, bitch, you'd have been fine.
Bitch.
Anyway, you bitch. John Hughes hires him to direct National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And he takes
Thank
the
you so
assignment.
much for giving me that movie, Lacey.
I gave you that movie?
I mean, I had never
made
seen
you
that
watch
movie,
it.
but since you've come into my life, you're like, this is my favorite movie. And now I'm like, that is my favorite part about Christmas is
Yep.
that movie.
Oh,
Yep.
Yeah.
Aw, you're welcome.
It's so good.
It's so good. We did our episode on it last year, episode 97. Check it out. And you can hear that we recorded the first part and I'd only seen it once. And then I watched it again and recorded the second part and said, like, I like it a lot more now. Now I feel like it's one of my favorite Christmas movies.
You needed to get through it once to like get where it was going, and then you could kind of settle in.
To see that it's one of those like vignette movies where it's
Yeah.
like the order of the scenes doesn't matter. I'm just checking in. Oh, it's the part with the squirrel in the tree. Oh, it's the part with the falling through the attic.
That's why you can,
Shitter's full.
yes, the best thing ever. It is why you can jump in on it at any time.
John Hughes, so Chris Columbus goes to work on Christmas Vacation and he starts filming some second unit stuff, meaning, establishing shots
Cash
of buildings
register.
and stuff. And we pointed out in that episode, like, boy, these scenes, because they're in the movie, stuff that Columbus shot, they seem very Home Alone 2.
Very.
They evoke the Christmas in the city feeling, that special
Fast
feeling.
pace, compartment store, ladies' cleavage, credit card.
You got it. But Chris Columbus, when he starts meeting with Chevy Chase, he goes to John Hughes. He's like, I'm not going to be able to do this.
Not gonna.
This guy's a nightmare.
He's like
And
my
John
dad.
Hughes has worked with Chevy much in the past. He's like, I understand. Here, I wrote this script, Home Alone. You can do this movie instead.
He even had his person with him, and she wasn't able to keep him in check, huh, Bev?
What's Chevy Chase's deal?
He's an asshole.
He's horrible.
He's like a nightmare.
But he's got a good handler in Beverly. What's her last
Well,
name?
the Beverly D'Angelo, who plays his wife in the Vacation movies, she seems like the one person who's ever like
She's like the whisperer.
who he respects and like gets along with him. But yeah, everything about him on Community was a night. It's not like in a problematic way. Just he's an egomaniac. He doesn't work well with others. But it's like, but if you can, he has a special magic to him that if you can figure out how to get, there's no one like him. But it's often not worth the trouble. So, I mean, Chris Columbus went on to direct Mrs. Doubtfire. He was directed the first two Harry Potter movies. Like he's like one of these guys who's secretly like a mogul.
He's got a great name, too. He discovers things, I'll bet you.
And his production company is called 1492 Pictures.
Leaning in.
So who's going to play Kevin? John Hughes had directed Uncle Buck with John Candy, and Macaulay Culkin is one of the kids.
I've never seen Uncle Buck either, but I've saw like we were flipping through a channel and it came on, and I remember I'm like, what the fuck is he doing in there?
It's great.
I was like, that's Macaulay Culkin in a movie that wasn't Home Alone.
It's less satisfying and less light than
there's a shotgun in it.
Yes, but it's got great laughs and it ends good.
I haven't seen it in its entirety. I was watching a few scenes to get ready for this. And one of the first things that little Macaulay Culkin does is curse. And I realized that's the thing that's missing from Kevin. He needs to curse.
Yeah.
But John Hughes is like right away, he's like, Macaulay Culkin's the kid. He's the one he's obviously who I have in mind. He was so good in Uncle Buck. Chris Columbus has a commentary on the first movie that I watched. And he said he wanted to like try to exert his independence and say like, I'm not just John Hughes' little boy. I can get my way. So he ended up auditioning 200 other kids. And this is what he said in the oral history. Quote, I ended up seeing 200 other kids, looked over hundreds of videotapes. Then Macaulay read, and you immediately knew this was the kid. I knew subconsciously that John knew that was going to happen, but it was really sweet of him to give me that sort of freedom.
Aw.
End quote.
I forgive his mullet now.
So they end up with...
What the fuck am I looking at? Why does this little picture of Macaulay Culkin look like he's got an adult version of him standing next to him with like stuffed the same weird way in his jacket and his big pants?
We're just looking at a still from the production of Home Alone 1 with the giant crew.
The guy next to him, he looks identical to Pigpen from The Grateful Dead.
To show how all of this of just Kevin walking alone down the street has to happen.
Are you sure he's walking, or is he like on a little tripod? Like it looks like they're just going to go Roomba him.
I would recommend that commentary track. They point out like, because there's, labor laws with kid actors, you will see that often Kevin or any of the other kids are often in a shot by themselves. They're not actually interacting with adult actors.
I did some light Wikipediaing on Home Alone, and there was something about how Joe Pesci, what his relationship was with Macaulay Culkin. Like he said, like, I didn't want to like meet with the kid like until we were like doing scenes so that it would have a lot more authenticity.
Yeah, he didn't want them to like have a great off-screen relationship because he wanted Macaulay Culkin to actually like play the menace of being around this guy. I also think Joe Pesci, like, he doesn't have fucking time for little kids.
Yeah.
No.
You mean I gotta watch what I say?
He doesn't like that they shop in the same department.
Because he's short.
He's beyond short.
But one of the great things about these movies is how menacing Joe Pesci is. Mm-hmm. And just having that attitude.
Didn't he make that up? Didn't he make that up in the first one, that way of cursing without cursing?
Yes, to not say curse words. But I was surprised. There's very little of that in the first movie. It all comes from the second movie. In my memory, he's always just going, it's freaking. But it's really just the second movie.
Bad at that.
Yeah, you got to have a lot more like mouth juices.
No, don't do it. No, you're good at a lot of things. We don't need that one.
But he is good.
His laugh is. I was working on my Joe Pesci laugh last night.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I was trying to think of what impressions Elliot would be really good at, and I decided of this movie, and I decided that he's got to do good at singing the Cougar song. Well, you're talking about the shower scene.
Oh yeah, I did that, but no, it's my Marv getting shocked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll wait for it.
Yeah.
So the movie
and
was...
I also do a great... Harry.
Hermione.
No,
so
don't confuse
the first movie was in pre-production at Warner Brothers, but they put the project in turnaround. They didn't. There was a budget dispute over $2 million. So Warner Brothers said another studio can buy this from us. Fox purchases it. They produce it for $18 million, and it ended up making $500 million worldwide. Number one movie of 1990, the highest grossing live action comedy of all time. At that point, just an unprecedented phenomenon.
Wow.
So they're like, okay, we got to fucking get a sequel out right now.
This is what happens when you don't dial it in with any one of the roles. When you put money into each of the talent. I mean, without Catherine O'Hara, without the dad that's totally likable, of course, without Marv and Harry, and even, I don't know, they put money in.
Yeah, they're hiring real actors.
That's
and
what
letting
I mean.
them be funny.
They're not saying that any of these spots are disposable. It's not, they have this amazing lightning in a bottle of Macaulay Culkin, and they don't lean on that. That's what's smart. That there's just this well-rounded all the way down to the uncle, and then the supporting fucking siblings and everything.
Yeah, he's the star, but this is a real world and it's full of people.
You know it's a good movie when even the fucking lady, the Ali Sheedy, they put Ali Sheedy as this like 2-second thing where she's just like, I'm sorry, sir. Are you saying that you're, or whatever she does, and it's like, even this part's good.
In the first movie, you even have John Candy, who's like really important in the end of the movie. You have
Polka, polka, polka.
Roberts Blossom as his old man Marley, and even things like the cop who's like as a child ingested any poison, have been attacked by a relative.
Pizza guy, the pizza delivery guy. He's got the perfect like face for that.
Hey, nice tip, lady.
Right.
Nice tip. Thanks a lot.
I think the taxi driver in here, where he like goes walking to the Central Park, and he's like, "It's scary out there. It ain't much better out here, kid."
And he's like a deadite from Evil Dead.
Yeah,
He just has 2 different color eyes, guys. Calm down.
No, I know, but it's
and like the prostitute. It's like, hey, looking for somebody to read you a bedtime story.
I love when
This is where I call bullshit.
I love when a prostitute is
why
like,
are they so mean?
I'm going to taunt this little child.
That doesn't exist. They just want to make their money and leave. It's cold.
Watch it, kid. It's so scary.
It is scary. It's brilliant. It's from his perspective. So
Yeah,
when you think of it like that, you're like, okay, most of this didn't really happen like this.
It's like the furnace in the first movie.
Right. Oh, yeah.
When it suddenly comes to life and it's going to eat him. That's what the park is. So Macaulay Culkin was paid $4.5 million plus 5% gross for the sequel, compared to the first movie, for which he was only paid $100,000. Filmed from December 91 to May 92.
Was this a cash grab for Macaulay Culkin?
Well, he paid for it by Michael fucking Jackson.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I mean, not because of this movie.
Yeah, because of his prevalence, because of his stardom.
Because he wanted to see his...
He got on that radar.
Face.
Yep.
This was him knowing his economic value and getting as much as he could.
Just look at child stars differently now. I see a tortured little baby.
I mean,
Do you see that Statue of Liberty face on that newspaper?
Oh,
That's him.
It's him.
Oh wow!
I've
In the
not- like,
newspaper
yeah.
on the poster, the Statue of Liberty is Kevin McAllister. Huh.
Well, it's doing the Kevin McAllister face.
Oh. All right. Chris Columbus, he said Donald Trump insisted on getting a cameo in the movie in exchange for access to the Plaza Hotel, which Donald Trump owned. And Columbus said his plan was to cut the scene because Trump just film it. Because apparently he often would film things that just got cut out.
Yeah, this is his standing agreement with anyone that uses the plaza.
Yes, but he said a test audience cheered when Trump came on screen, so he kept the scene in the movie.
It's such a nothing moment. And also, if a lobby's that hard to find, you might as well have someone tell you where it is.
I got to tell you all this. So when I went to the hospital lobby when was being born, I went and met Mom and Dad and everyone there, and Home Alone 2 was on in the waiting room, and it was at that scene when Trump walks by, and this was, in August leading up to 2016.
Right.
And she goes, "Yep, that's Donald Trump." And I'm like, "What the fuck is he doing in that movie?" And I was like, I never realized that was him. And I was like, that's the same guy? And yeah. That taints
funny.
it for me.
That's the thing. They're like, hey, why was there an insurrection at the Capitol? It's because of this guy from Home Alone 2.
They've been grooming us. They've been normalizing him.
But he had a cameo in Zoolander, apparently. And Ben Stiller
He's
says...
got the face for it.
Ben Stiller says people ask him all the time to cut the scene from the movie. He's like, I'm not going to
fucking do? I'm not producing a lot more of these tapes and DVDs.
But there was like a petition for him to get cut out of Home Alone 2 from like streaming releases, and Macaulay Culkin signed it. It's like, hey, let's just get over it. How about that? Anyway, movie was an enormous hit, albeit made about $100 million less than the original.
I will remind you said this was a short history section?
Yeah, this is short for us.
Fantastic.
Okay, we'll talk about the movie itself.